we'll just pop on and look through the agenda for today. So first of all, we're going to talk through why we have floor graphics and what the different situations and uses are for floor graphics. Next up, we're going to talk through the different media and product types that you use for floor graphics. So we're going to be looking at 1- and 2-part solutions, the different technologies and the uses and suppliers. We're going to be talking through safety, so slip ratings, locations, standards, and ratings for your products or your graphics. We're going to look through designing floor graphics, so a few bits about viewing angles, the different types of graphics that you can have. And this is where Giovanni's going to take over and talk through some 3D and anamorphic graphics, which is quite exciting. And then we're going to be talking through manufacturers and tips. So a little bit about different suppliers of the different materials that you can use for floor graphics, and then just a couple of reminders. And then at the end, we'll have a Q&A session as well. So we'll probably be talking for somewhere between sort of 30 and 45 minutes. I'm going to go fairly quickly through the first bit of content until we get to Giovanni's demonstration for the designing part as well. First of all, why do we have floor graphics? There's a few examples here, and the first image, as you can see, is a very busy street covered in signage, and signage has been used at sort of eye level for years, and it's a very busy place to be looking at the eye level in any environment. So floors are often a neglected space, but a space where you can stand out from the crowd. So floors are often just left clean or blank, and it's a space that, you know, the floor graphics are not new, but it's a space that's not often unused. Obviously, the next image there, you can see directional signage, which has become, you know, very prominent in the last couple of months due to the COVID virus. So directional and safety graphics or distancing graphics are hugely popular at the moment. But that's a very sort of standard application, you know, directional signage for supermarkets and things like that, and distancing graphics as well. But there's other uses as well for floor graphics. So perhaps that image on the bottom left there, promotional graphics or sponsorship. And education is a great market for floor graphics as well. You can see those two examples on the screen there on the bottom right are from a school corridor where children can play games and interact with their floor graphics as well. So that's another couple of uses for your floor graphics. Another couple of uses, art for one use. So, you know, floor graphics don't have to be functional. They can just be there because they're beautiful or because you want to create some interesting floor graphics. Some of you have probably seen some of the sort of street graphics where artists create illusions from chalk, and they take a huge amount of skill and are very, very impressive. But obviously you can just create art and interesting things out of floor graphic vinyls as well. Another use would be for change of appearance. So interior decorations would be a huge market as well, that represented on screen there by those tiles. Maybe you can't find the finish that you're looking for your new kitchen or your bathroom or your hallway, and you can't find the tiles or the floor laminate that you're looking for, but you can print those graphics and apply them. And that's obviously a reuse or changeable graphic as well. Much easier to change than it would be to pull up a whole floor and start again. So for interior decorations and surfaces, floor graphics are a perfect solution as well. And then finally, events as well. So events such as sports events or, you know, promotional events, concerts, gigs, that kind of thing. Floor graphics are a great way of advertising or displaying information for those as well. So next we'll talk a little bit about the different types of material or media that you can print onto, and we've broken this down into two main areas. So we have 2-part solutions and 1-part solutions. 2-part solutions are based around a self-adhesive printable material normally. They can just be colored, but printable gives you a lot more flexibility. So the self-adhesive printable vinyl, as you can see on your screen there, the white line would be your face film, so the surface of the material. The gray line there is your adhesive on the back of your material. What you would then do is print onto the surface of the face film using whatever technology it is that you have. And on top of that, you laminate with an anti-slip layer. So that would be a textured surface of some sort. They have slightly different textures depending on the laminate that you're going to be using. And you encapsulate the ink by putting that laminate layer on top. So you end up with a printed layer with adhesive, then you've got your layer of ink, then you've got another layer of material with adhesive, which seals the ink. So you end up with a two-part solution. So a couple of the benefits of using a two-part solution are that your ink would be protected. That means that it would be protected from floor traffic, from scuffs, from other elements that it might be exposed to. You know, weather. It does have another layer of UV protection then with the laminate layer on top. It also means that you've got some flexibility with that laminate layer that you put on top. So you can get different textured laminates that you can use on top of your graphic. So they might be different slip ratings, they might have a different appearance. There's a number of different things that you can do with your laminate. This also means that the ink layer would be protected from cleaning as well. So if the cleaning of your graphic involves solvent cleaners, or maybe in a supermarket they whiz around on those little cleaning machines, it means that the floor graphic would be protected from that with the laminate layer. The downside perhaps to using a two-part solution would probably be down to the time that it takes. So you have two processes, it's a two-part process, so it's going to take longer to produce, and you probably need to have a laminator in order to do that. So you need a little bit more kit to be able to produce these. You don't have to have a laminator. If you were just doing smaller graphics, you could laminate by hand, but in essence, it would take a little bit longer. These are normally slightly longer duration of life as well. So two-part graphics might last a little bit longer or be slightly longer term than one-part solutions. So one-part solutions, as you can see in the graphic there, the white part is represented by a textured face film. So the printable surface of your media is anti-slip. It doesn't need to have a laminate put on top. So you have a textured top surface with an adhesive on the back. So again, it's a self-adhesive printable vinyl, and it comes with an anti-slip top layer. And that's it. You just print your ink onto the surface of that textured layer, meaning that your ink is sat on the top of your vinyl. So one of the downsides might be that your ink could be damaged over time by heavy traffic. So where you have peaks and troughs within that surface of the vinyl, the peaks would be exposed to any weather or traffic, meaning that the ink over time could deteriorate there. Some of the benefits, you do have many different textures and appearances for the anti-slip vinyl that you're printing onto. So some of them may have a sort of patterned surface on them. Some of them might be a higher texture than others. The downside, again, the cleaning might affect the ink on the surface. So depending on the cleaning solutions that you're using, they could affect the ink. One of the big benefits of using a single part solution is that it's very quick and easy to produce. All you need to do is print onto that material and then stick it onto your floor surface. The single part solutions are normally slightly shorter term than the two part solutions. So floor graphics as a whole are probably not extremely long life. They are normally short to mid term, depending on where they're going to be going, but these single part solutions are often slightly slower, so slightly shorter term as well. So when we talk about the different floor graphics and media types, there's a few considerations that you might want to look at. So first of all, the location of your floor graphic. This is a huge consideration depending on the type of business that you are, perhaps, or where it's going to be going. So the example that we've used there looks like a foyer of a venue. So you could have foyers. It could be that it's going on, for example, the side of a swimming pool, which would be a very different application because it's going to be in a wet environment. You need to think about whether this is going to be on a flat surface or an uneven surface, or even an angled surface as well, because that will affect the sort of slip ratings and things that you're going to be looking at. So consider the location. the traffic that's going to be exposed to, and then the different floor surfaces as well. So is it onto stone? Is it onto carpet? Is it onto a laminate floor? All of these will depend on the type of vinyl that you're going to be using, and the different ratings and things that you'll need for that as well. So indoor, outdoor, wet, dry, is it exposed to sun? Is it not exposed to sun? There's lots of different considerations when it comes to your location. The next consideration would be the actual technology or the media type that you're going to be printing onto. So the face film that you're going to be using. You can have PVC vinyls, you can have polyester vinyls, you can have polypropylene vinyls, and these will have slightly different benefits to each of them. PVC is your standard vinyl that you would normally use, and most floor graphics are going to be of the PVC variety, but you can also get polyesters. Polyesters are normally a little bit more expensive, but they're a lot more stable than PVC vinyls, so they won't be as exposed to things like shrinkage or movement within the material, and they're very tear resistant as well. Another consideration would be the adhesive that comes on the backing of your material. So you get removable and permanent adhesives, you get solvent adhesives and acrylic adhesives. So depending on your environment, whether it's going to be wet, indoors or outdoors, you need to consider the adhesive technology that comes with your material. Also take note that removable adhesives are not permanently removable. So often the term can trick people, because a removable vinyl, the adhesive will become permanent after a certain period of time. That depends, so you need to check with the manufacturer of your material, but often, say for example 6 months plus, a removable vinyl will become a permanent vinyl, which will be a lot more difficult to remove. So again, you don't want to have the adhesive left over when you remove your vinyl, ruining the floor that it's on or making it a lot more difficult to remove. So adhesives are another factor. Now, floor graphics normally need a slightly stronger or more aggressive adhesive so that that vinyl stays stuck to the floor and you don't get edge curl or lifting up of your vinyl. And finally, the ink technology that you're going to be using for printing. So obviously this might be determined by the technologies that you have, but most floor graphics will work with eco solvent, with UV, and with latex, for example. So think about the technology that you're using, because this will affect the type of material that you want to be using and whether you're going to be laminating or not. So for example, some UV materials might need a specific laminate that will stick to the UV ink. So just another consideration to take in when you're choosing your materials. Now we're going to talk through a little bit about the safety side of things. So this is a very important aspect of creating floor graphics. And because this is very prominent at the moment with COVID-19 and everybody putting down floor graphics, I'm sure that the authorities are going to be hot on this, and there will be a lot more people trying to get into floor graphics that aren't used to floor graphics. So it's definitely something that you need to learn about and you need to research before applying floor graphics in any public area. So in essence, slip ratings are broken down into a couple of different ratings. This is mainly in the UK or in Europe that we're talking about. So they're basically broken down into a DIN standard, a DIN standard, and then there's an EN standard as well. So the DIN standard, the DIN standard is 51130, and the ratings go from an R9 up to an R13. Now these are based on a slip standard on a ramp. So that graphic on the right hand side there of a gentleman on a ramp, that's how they do the testing. So somebody will walk onto this material at different increments of angles, and when they slip, that's the slip rating. So these become, R9 is the lower rating and R13 is the highest rating that you can get. So again, look into these, because some of these are for with shoes or without shoes. Some of these are for wet or dry environments. So as we said, side of, on a boat or in a swimming pool or something like that, then you need to go with the higher ratings there. The other test is a pendulum test. So this is where a pendulum is swung above the floor graphic on a flat floor graphic, and where the pendulum scuffs the top of the surface, it's when that pendulum would stop. So this is more of a kind of slip rating on a flat surface rather than on an angled like the ramp test. So it's for sort of slip or skid rating on the surface using that pendulum test. So the two are not directly comparable, but they're two different ratings that you need to look at. So as we said, there's these DIN statings, DIN statings, and then there's the pendulum test. So do talk to your media suppliers about the rating and to your insurance or liability that you might be exposed to for where you're putting your graphic. If this is in a high foot traffic area, is there insurances in place? Are you liable for the graphics going down? So as I said, talk to the media suppliers and do be sure to research the different R ratings or the pendulum test ratings in your region or your locality as well. So now a quick introduction to designing floor graphics. Now there's a few examples on the screen there. So the star that I've put at the top there is just a reminder that when you're designing floor graphics that are print and cut, it's often better to try and round the corners. So if you look at that star on the left, the sharp points on those edges are going to be a lot more likely to pick up than the rounded corners. So try and round corners when you're printing and cutting data, just to make it a little bit less likely to pull up. And then a few other examples there of 3D graphics, illusion graphics that Giovanni is going to talk through in a moment. The graphic on the right there is actually the elevator, the lift at the Roland offices, where we've put a sort of illusion to make it look like the floor of the graphic is missing. So just a few ideas for you. The standard 2D graphics are very, easy to produce probably and a little bit more standard, but there's a lot more that you can do when it comes to your graphics. So as you can see on that image on the left-hand side, adding a drop shadow to your graphics to really make them sort of stand out. And then all the way up to full anamorphic graphics like that red sort of circular graphic on the right hand side there, which is utilizing floor, wall and ceiling graphics to create an illusion from a specific viewpoint.
Yes, sure, perfect. Okay. Wow, there are a lot of things you can do with the floor graphics. I want to show you a couple ways, okay? Using vector and raster and 3D. 3D very important, because if you are able to understand how to work in 3D, you can create an amazing thing. Okay, then first of all, starting to analyze. In this case, I open Corel Draw, but you can work also with Illustrator or whatever you think, no problem. Okay. I import this photo that was very important to analyze the position of the graphic. Anyway, you have to prepare the graphic to present to the owner what want to prepare for the floor graphics. This way, for example, the bottle of beer, okay, with a discount. I count the tiles, 6 tiles and 18 tiles for this area. Perfect. This is very important because second step, you have to design the floor with the tiles, okay, the number of tiles, and the final measure of the floor graphics. This is the initial images. You have to distort the envelope to go inside this area. How do that? I can move the graphic inside this area. Then I use the function perspective and move the corner to go in the same corner of the final area. Some millimeter, there's not a problem, okay? Perfect. This one was the graphic you have to print to have this result, okay? Practically, you have these elements. then you can ungroup, okay, or wherever you want to go to the cutting path to go in print and cut this solution. In this case, I starting with a vector element. You can move distort also flat images as this one, the same thing, okay, because was possible again to apply perspective also to a bitmap, okay. This one, okay, this one, perspective, and control the prospect. But if you're working with the bitmap, was better to starting working onto Photoshop. This way, I want to show how to replicate or recreate this whole just with Photoshop. Okay, starting again, have to see the floor when we want to apply the floor graphics, but we know this is the area, and we can work in new images, in I don't know, depend the dimension, okay, but now just to show you 2000 pixel, 1000 pixel, okay, is a rectangle. Okay, starting with a rectangle. Then I want to create this toroid. The name was toroid, a mathematical name. How do that? Practically, starting to work with the vector pen. Excuse me, the software was in Italian, but don't have the English version at the moment. Okay, with the pen, I start to draw very easy, okay, a very simple element. This one, for example, okay. And another thing very important was this element I need to close. In this case, I create also the vector in the other part. Okay. This element, I go in 3D, and I create an extrusion in 3D from directly, not from the layer, but to the vector. In this case, the Photoshop extrudes the simple path, okay, in this element I show you in 3D, okay. I am inside the Photoshop, not external software. There are a lot of other way to extrude, and I need this one. This one was a revolution, but before I decided to apply the revolution on the right, okay. Then have these amazing effects. Okay, wow. Now change the sheen just to see the texture of the images, because otherwise you don't see nothing. Why? Because I need the sheen to have also the lights. This is the ambient lights. You see the colors was very dark. The shadow, you can control the shadow. And this is the global light. Then you can move and apply the lights from infinity or other kind of lights. Okay, then go again in solid to see something, and go in extrusion material to apply a material just to see something different. For example, onto the material, I want to apply this checkboard. You see now something different. Perfect. Texture. We see better in texture. Okay, then I move onto the space just to have the correct way to simulate the objects onto our surface, okay? And for example, the hole I want to move more. In this case, I can go in the media, how I create the media, because I have a lot of parameter to control the object. Okay, go to here and move the hole. Look at, you see the largest of the holes. Perfect. Then I go more near, longest. And this arrow here, you see red arrow, green are need to move to change some parameter. Oh, I want also to change the shadow of this object. Practically go in the media from extrusion, then I change the texture and put another texture. For example, I prefer to apply the Roland color system library as a texture here. Where is here? Okay, perfect. Go. Then apply the texture. And you can also change the property of the quantity of the objects. Go inside, outside, or duplication. How many think you are able to do? Fantastic, okay? Then, okay, perfect. And when you apply the correct light, etc., go in 3D panel and have a rendering. Starting rendering was different from the preview, need time. So yesterday need 2 hour time to have a rendering of this one, a lot of time, but at the end of this work you have something as this one I show you. Okay, wow, amazing. But this one was flat, practically is not correct to the anamorphic distortion. This way we have to deform. How to deform that? Go in layer, this 3D, yes, this 3D, this 3D. Go in layer, perfect. Okay, first make an object, remove selection, perfect. This type all. Then I insert a kind of grid, the grid small or big one. The big one was a square grid because in fact this one was a circle and I have to move and change the dimension of the square. Okay, and import now the grid, square grid. That was very important, the grid, okay? Because need the grid to prepare the graphic in anamorphic way. That was not important, the quality of the grid. Then another thing, I have to insert here the floor when I want to apply this graphic. For example, this one as a layer, okay? That was the floor, real floor, the photo of the floor. Okay, then decide the position of my hole.